We're joined once again tonight by Susan Chira, foreign editor of the New York Times, and Gideon Rose, managing editor of Foreign Affairs magazine. Welcome back to both of you.
Thank you.
I'm going to begin with a quote. Okay. The subject matter is Iran. This sounds a bit like a game show. Who said this? They do not understand that our relationship is based on affection, based on faith, and is a father-son relationship. Gideon?
I have absolutely no idea.
Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, as he was responding about what was a very turbulent week, and there has been great reporting about this divide that appears to be blooming between the supreme leader and Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. How bad is the political situation in Iran?
You know, everybody who watches this says that they don't know exactly what's going to happen next, that it's clear this was a major turning point in the history of the Islamic Republic, and it can't go back to where it was before, but it's also likely that the ultimate playing out of the crisis will take a much longer time frame, and you're not going to see any major change right away. So it's going to destabilize the Republic in the long term, but probably not in the short term.
In the meantime, Susan, the United States is anxiously waiting to hear something back on the overture that the Obama administration has made. Are we likely to hear anything? And if we do, are we likely to like what we hear?
I think that, to be honest, any journalist who predicts anything about Iran right now would be foolish. It's very unstable, I think. As Gideon said, I agree that Iran is in a tumultuous period. It's not that this regime is going to implode, but it may not be able to function with any clear policy direction. The factionalism, which is endemic to Iran, is even worse. And I think it's possible, early signs were that the Iranian regime before this election was intrigued by the Obama overtures. It wasn't clear they would respond in a way that the United States would find acceptable, but they were interested. So the question is, if they're able to sort of pull together and paper over some of these differences, what will the response be? Some people have suggested a potential compromise that would allow some measure of enrichment supervised by, say, the IAEA. But it's unclear that Iran will be sufficiently organized to offer anything in the short term.
Right, they're all trying to hang on to their jobs and hang on to the country. What's the U.S. supposed to do then?
Well, really watch and wait, make itself ready for talks, try to be constructive, but not push the situation too hard or too fast, and not do anything rash. Basically, stay out of this one and let it play out and see what's going on and make sure there are real clear red lines established for what we will not tolerate, but otherwise see what happens.
But the centrifuges keep spinning. The nuclear program presumably keeps moving forward.
It does keep moving forward, and so you want to try to say that one of your red lines is, well, first red line is getting to the point of weaponization. Second red line, really one you can't let cross, is weaponizing. But watch this play out for another few months at least, I would say.
All right, let's turn to Israel and the U.S. There were big meetings that took place in Israel. The stumbling block still appears to be, and a very difficult thorn in the side of the U.S.-Israeli relationship, the settlements in the West Bank. Is there any sign of a breakthrough?
My sense, in speaking to actually our State Department correspondent, Mark Landler, is that in the short term, we don't expect any immediate breakthrough. The Obama administration did signal a real clear break from the Bush administration, a much tougher line on settlements, calling for this total freeze. This is played very poorly in Israel. And in fact, as an op-ed piece in the Times pointed out this week, and apparently the Obama administration was listening, there's a sense that President Obama may not have explained his case directly enough to the Israeli people because it's gotten people's backs up. At the same time, of course, that has some value when you're trying to prove to the Arab world that you're more neutral. But they may have put themselves in a little bit of a short-term box because, on the one hand, having put down a very, very clear, hard line about the total freeze, it makes it difficult to compromise without suggesting to the Arab world that, once again, from their perspective, the United States doesn't take a hard enough line about Israel.
And who's going to bend first in this?
Well, it's an interesting question whether the Obama administration realized just how tough they were being and just how strongly they were handling this issue in the spring.
You don't think they knew? You don't think?
Well, there might have been some misunderstanding about just how tough they should be, and they might have blundered into a slightly larger crisis with Israel than they wanted to or intended to get into. On the other hand, I think what the Israelis are starting to wake up to is that there really is a new guy in town, and the last two administrations, both Clinton and Bush Jr., so you have essentially 16 years of American policy that was very, very, very pro-Israel. And this new one is a little bit more hands-off. We're going back to essentially Bush 1 and Carter, in which the Israelis are basically going to find that they don't always get their way and they don't always have a friend in the White House who is absolutely going to take everything the Israelis say at face value.
I want to turn to China real quick before we run out of time. Another big week of meetings there. Where's this relationship going between the U.S. and China?
Well, I think that right now, what we see the administration's strategy is emphasizing the economic aspects of the relationship over some of the human rights, political issues. And I think they're accentuating the positive because right now, with the economy still uncertain and China being such a big economic engine, they don't want to confront China about some of the existing economic tensions that we have about foreign exchange and currency adjustment and so on, and trade issues. So they're accentuating the positive in meetings this week and putting on the back burner some of the more troubling issues.
And what are the troubling issues?
The troubling issues are disputes over just how each side is going to play its currency and its reserves and economic policies and domestic stimuluses. Each side, how they're going to deal with human rights, strategic issues. But this relationship will go well. Frankly, Iran, Israel, these are important but chronic and somewhat low-grade policies. The U.S.-China relationship is going to be the defining feature of international politics in the next several decades. It has to go well because the consequences of it going badly are horrible for everybody. So it will go well.
The president said it, that it would define the 21st century.
And here he was being correct.
Gideon Rose and Susan Chira, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.